Testing, testing, testing. We're just waiting for a few minutes. Say hello for the early bird re-watchers of the stream. Hello, Dr. Holly Parsons.
Hello, Grant. Hello, early birds.
And there we are. There's the first early bird coming in on Facebook. Hello, hello, hello. We're just going to wait a minute or two before we kick off. If you want to ask questions or leave a comment or something, you can do that. You can do that on all of the, I think, all of the destinations. Let me just see. YouTube, yes. Facebook profiles, no, but if they're watching on the Facebook page, which they must be, yes. So you can. And where else are we going? Twitter. Oh, Twitter can't leave comments, but they can just talk to us. Okay. So there we go. We're relying on you, Facebook, because we're not going to Twitch or to LinkedIn today. Just changing it up to see who's who in the zoo.
Nice.
Just excuse me. We're not on screen, are we yet, Holly? There we are. It's just. Where are we? Just gone 1 o'clock. Let's leave it for another couple of minutes. I hope you don't mind, Facebook friend. Why don't you say hello, Facebook friend? That would be nice. It's always good to know who's with us. Oh, I scared Facebook friend off.
Oh no.
Facebook friend left. Oh no.
Oh dear.
That's terrible. That's terrible. All right. Hey, we can start the countdown. It's the Bird Emergencies Monday Megaphone with regular co-host Dr. Holly Parsons from Birds in Backyards, the manager of the Urban Birds program at Birdlife Australia. I'm Grant Williams. I'm a bird nerd. That's Holly Parsons. And where are you, Holly?
Where am I?
Where are you? Where are you?
I promise I am here. Hello.
I know you are there. What is going on? Oh, there we go. I've got to take that off. There we are. Hello,
Hi.
everybody. Sorry about that. I spent so long doing all of our new groovy artwork and everything today, Holly, that I've made a frightful typo, but I think everything else looks good. But I'm sure I'll be forgiven for the typo.
Absolutely.
So, Holly, without spreading...
After, 18 months of very, very rigorous sanitizing and everything. I think last week my daughter had tested positive, and by Wednesday I well and truly had it. So I'm doing much better. I wasn't that bad to start off with, thank goodness. Hooray for vaccines.
Yes.
But yeah, so if I mute myself today, it's because I have to have a nice little cough, but I will do my best.
That's okay. All right. I've done the artwork. Holly, we're going to start because we're following up on last week where we couldn't get through all of the projects that BirdLife is involved in at the moment. We did cover birds in schools and the birds in backyards surveys, but I think we need to probably talk about the surveys again because you really want people to be involved. So that's the web address that you can easily go to lob on Holly's Birds in Backyards website. Holly, tell us about the surveys. When do they start? How do people do them?
So, Birds in Backyards is our program, which is all around the birds that live where people live and how we can better create habitat for them in our own space. And so, we do surveys that are available year round, but it is autumn. So, we like to divide our surveys up seasonally. So, it's time to do some autumn surveys. What we ask you to do is to basically just take some time in your garden, 20 minutes, to do a bird survey, tell us what you are seeing, and tell us what your garden is like. So just answer some questions about the types of plants, if you've got mostly native plants or mostly introduced plants, if you've got shrubs, if you've got trees, and then some basics around sort of what goes on in your garden, whether you feed birds or have water available, or if you've got pets. All that information then feeds into our understanding of how we can better create gardens for birds, or if there are some features that particular birds might be trying to avoid. So those surveys are available anytime for people to take part in. We know that these are surveys that are done, in your own space. So it's a nice place that you can be familiar with, and often you can get familiar with the birds that are coming and going quite regularly. Autumn's always really interesting though, because there's a lot of migrations that happen. So it's kind of my favourite year to see changes in the garden, because you can get some nice visitors coming through. But you don't have to know the names of every bird that comes into your garden. So there's some features built into Bird Data, which is the app that we use for recording our Birds in Backyard surveys. So it will actually give you a list with images of the birds that are likely to be found in your space to start you off. So you can select from those rather than having to think about exactly what the name is of every bird that you've come across. And you can build up your own knowledge as you go. And just really quickly, I'll also point out that if you don't have any interesting birds, if you've just got the same old guys coming around again, if you've only got a couple of birds visiting, that's fine. We don't judge. We want to know about the birds that are visiting. It doesn't matter if they are a common or Indian miner, or if they are an extremely rare or exciting bird that you've never seen before. Send them through. Doesn't matter. All of that data helps us with our investigations into what's happening with our backyard birds.
And of course, the link that is on the screen now. From there, it's very easy to go to the surveys and the bird data page. So just get involved. Now, Holly, I want to lob something on you that I haven't asked you before.
Oh, excellent.
But we've been well, when we're talking about the surveys, and I often muse. Wax lyrical about the park that I hang out in.
Mm-hmm.
I was out to hear the dawn chorus this morning. That was pretty fun.
Nice.
What's your highlight in your backyard in terms of sightings?
Look, honestly, my garden's not that exciting. You would think that I should have this extravagant array of different bird species visiting, but it's not. It's pretty basic, really. I've got some magpie larks, I've got some spotted doves, I've got some common miners, lots of noisy miners. I do have satin bowerbirds around, which are really nice. So I had one hanging out on the roof of my shed on the weekend, pulling off some little twigs from the melaleucas, which was interesting. So they're around reasonably often. What else have I had that's been exciting? I had a tawny frogmouth hanging out one night. I walked straight past him on the fence. Occasionally we get some different birds of prey
I was going to
soaring
ask
overhead.
about that. What raptors do you get at your place?
So we get some brown goshawks. There's a grey goshawk that has been around occasionally too, which is really nice. Not over my backyard, but in the distance, we've had some wedge-tailed eagles that we can see, which has been really exciting. That's probably my most thrilling sighting. But look, there's nothing particularly special about my yard. It's a work in progress. We've got some natives in, but we've got some exotic plants as well. We've got a bit of a herb garden. We've got some space for the dogs and things to run around in. So it's very much an everyday, average Aussie backyard, really.
The thing about anybody's backyard is they're not islands. So
Nope.
how about your neighbours and your neighbourhood in terms of suitable habitat for garden birds?
It's hit and miss. Again, I think it's probably pretty typical. Um, there are some really lovely gardens around, but there's a lot of just lawn. Um, so we've got a nice, good amount of eucalypts around and a little park down the road that's very well treed. So there's a really big population of sulphur-crested cockatoos and corellas and rainbow lorikeets. The big common parrots do really, really well. I've been told there's some nest boxes that have been put up in my local park, but I've been in isolation, so I haven't been able to go and check them out. But I'll be really interesting to have a look at those and see who's been popping them up and what they're hoping to attract. So yeah, look, it's a very typical suburb, really. A few cats around, a few more wandering cats than I would like to see. Um, but apart from that, it's a very typical.
So the question I was going to ask you about the park is, do you think it's the council that are putting up nest boxes, or is it is it part of a monitored program? Do you think, or is it just some local who's got a couple of nest boxes and whacked them up?
I don't know. Is is the short answer? I'm assuming that it's a council project, but I need to get down there and have a good look and see how high up they are. If they're really high up in the trees, then it's probably going to be placed by sort of council or an endorsed program. If they're a little bit lower, then maybe it's just somebody who's got an interest that's popped along and popped them up. Yeah, I will report back when I can leave isolation and go and have a look at them.
Yeah, terrific. I must admit, I really enjoyed the last couple of mornings. I've been out 5:30, walking the dog, checking out the local sounds, and I'm I'm waiting for when the currawongs and the butcherbirds and whatnot come down. So as it gets cold, as it gets cool, and the black-faced cuckoo shrikes, they come down from the hills, and we see them sometimes if we're lucky here, and
Okay.
sometimes some cuckoos hang out too.
Oh, nice.
It's weird. Autumn here, and they're all confused. Climate change is confusing all of them. So
Yeah, look, I've just had my king parrots arrive. It's the first weekend this weekend. I've seen them in probably a good 6 months. So that was a nice little arrival. And again, on the East Coast, we should be seeing things like yellow-faced honeyeaters migrating soon. Most people don't see those little guys. You don't really notice, but it's getting towards the time of year when that mass migration happens. And I know that at least a couple of years I've seen them popping over my place. So I'm going to be keeping an eye out for them.
do you get the eastern spinebill in your garden?
It hasn't visited my garden. So there is one or two that have popped up in the last 12 months around my place because the first time I heard them, I went, "Oh, that's a new one." I know a spinebill, and I was very excited. But they are in the neighbourhood occasionally, but they're yet to visit my yard. I'm waiting. They've popped next door. They haven't quite made it into my garden yet.
Oh, fingers crossed. Are you comparing lists with your next door neighbour?
I need to. I think I need to. I don't
Well,
think. I don't think they're all quite as enthusiastic as I am. Maybe there's certainly some bird nerds amongst us, but they tend to report to me when there's something unusual. Yeah, I'm hoping the spine bill's not too far away.
cool. Well, let's move on to something else that people can do in their gardens. The
My little
fairy wrens.
favourites.
The fairy wrens. Now, this is a program. The one that's called Superb City Wrens is City of Melbourne, RMIT, and
Uni of Melbourne.
University of Melbourne.
Yes.
Kylie Soanes, of course, is a driving force behind this project. Now, I've put the links there, and the first one, which is the birdemergency.com Superb City Wrens, will take you to the Melbourne City Council page and the information about the project. The second one, which is the birdemergency.com slash wren sighting, that will take you to the link for the iNaturalist sightings, Holly. So, what can you tell us about the need for surveying fairy wrens? You don't have to limit your comments to Melbourne, of course.
Sure. So, look, the Superb City Wren project started out of, as you said, those organisations that you mentioned, and Birdlife, um, looking at Royal Park in Melbourne and attempting to work out how small birds are moving around and beyond Royal Park. Because City of Melbourne have been doing a lot of work on revegetation, and they've got a lot of plans for the work that they're doing that's still to come as well. So we're using fairy wrens as the focal species for the Superb City Wrens project, but it's not the only one. Um, Fairy wrens are great for this sort of work because they are territorial. So they will raise a clutch, and then when the females are ready to breed again, she will kick out the girls from the territory, who then have to wander and disperse. And if there's an opportunity, young males will disperse as well. So the Superb City Wren project is really looking at how effective these plantings are in allowing these birds to move around the parklands and beyond the parklands. And so we're doing this by banding the fairy wrens in particular, but also any other small birds that happen to um, come into the mist nets as well. So New Holland honeyeaters, spinebills, woolly wagtails. There's also been some white-browed scrub wrens that have been banded. But the fairy wrens in particular are being fitted with a range of colour bands, so we can actually uniquely identify all of the individuals. And then relying on citizen scientists who are visiting the parklands to report those sightings back and see where these birds are moving around and being seen. So anybody can go into Royal Park and keep an eye out for the birds and report the colours that you've seen, and the details are on that web page that you said. But we're also about to kick off some fixed site surveying, so going to some specific locations and record the birds that they see for a 15-minute period. So all those details are going to be on that City of Melbourne website, and you can also report sightings via that iNaturalist site as well. So one thing we really found when we started the Superb City Wren project was I already knew everybody loves fairy wrens. They are incredibly engaging. They are so gorgeous. They really capture people, and we were getting lots of people reporting, that where they were seeing their birds. And so through the iNaturalist feature, we're basically getting people to let us know where you see your fairy wrens. So let's build up a nice image across Australia of where all the different fairy wrens are popping up, and we can start to investigate some questions about why they're in different locations and how they are faring by gathering that data. So it enables people from around the country to pop their sightings through to us too.
And I was keen to highlight the fairy wren project because Kylie Soanes will be doing pretty similar to what you're doing with me regularly, talking about all of her interests through Uni of Melbourne and the City of Melbourne with urban bird projects, particularly artificial hollows and some of the monitoring projects like the red rump parrots and whatnot. So we'll be taking a slightly different tack, and we don't know which day yet we're going to be doing it, but if you don't know Kylie, you'll be able to meet her soon. So
Amazing.
let me just put that up again for a minute so people can get those links. Now, of course, I'm not running any of these sites or projects. I've just made easy links for people to find. So the birdemergency.com /Superb City Wrens for the Melbourne project, and the birdemergency.com /Wren sighting, one word, Wren sighting, will take you to the iNaturalist page where you can register to log your sightings. And Holly, I did notice that even though everyone loves them, there looks like there's only about 20 active loggers at the
Hmm.
moment. So get into it. I've
Absolutely.
I've I've jumped on board. We don't get many wrens. I don't think I've ever seen any actually in my locality. But when I'm out moving around the city, that's when you want to be looking. When I go out to the eastern suburbs to visit, I can log them as I see them out there.
Yeah,
So
great. Look, they're not strong flyers. So they're really reliant on corridors and habitat to move them along. They're not going to free fly large distances, and so that's one of the reasons that makes them a good bird to work with for these sort of connectivity issues. Um, but they do have their preferences. So you'll often find them around really weedy habitat, so along train lines, on roadside verges. Um, anywhere where unfortunately there's a bit of like lantana and things is where
yeah,
they often will be found. Um, but they're nice and easy for people to ID. They're pretty. They make themselves pretty obvious a lot of the times, and they'll often come out on open lawn space. So they're a really great one to get people into birding too.
one thing I've noticed with the wrens is that they they like the edge effect.
Hmm.
So if you can have some uh, messy grassland, for want of a much more specific term, and some dense habitat, be it weeds, lantanas, whatever, on the edge, they will like that, and irregular large shrubs and taller trees. They like that sort of broken up habitat. So
Yeah, absolutely. It makes it a challenge for things like for bush care groups and the like when you're doing things like weed removal because they're one of a number of small birds in particular that really like that sort of environment, and so it's all around that really cautious and careful replacement of problem weedy plants with suitable native alternatives. Um, and we know too that being territorial and not being particularly great flyers, it means you almost need to sort of um, from a radius of a known territory create that habitat that will enable the birds to move around the landscape, that they're not going to if you haven't seen a fairy wren in your garden for 10 years and there's no fairy wrens in a couple of kilometres, it's probably going to be pretty unlikely that you're going to be
yeah,
able to attract them.
they're
it's
not
it's
going
a
to they're not
challenge.
going to move in. It needs to be tackled on a local
Yeah.
community level, and then municipalities need to have plans in place. But
Yeah, that's right. And so this is where it's great where City of Melbourne are doing all this work and really carefully planning out how they can better design, these re-veg locations to enable that movement to happen.
and an example of that I saw on the weekend was I think it was on the Habitat Innovation Instagram, I
Mhm.
think. Uh, they've been involved with a couple of the shires in um, out out Bathurst Way, Orange Way. I didn't look exactly, but they're creating corridors, pathways, flyways for gliders, for possums and gliders. Now, obviously, if the possums can use it, so can the birds, so can the lizards, so can the echidnas. So, terrific program, and there's more and more of them happening, which means it's good, and I don't have to get on any kind of rant. So now, Holly, let's move on. Are you
Okay.
ready for our next one?
Where are we going next?
We're going to
Oh,
talk about more surveys,
OBPs.
the OBP. Now, I don't do a lot of OBP
Okay.
on the show so far, only because it's one of those species that doesn't really need doesn't need any help in terms of getting publicity and getting noticed. But we're talking to bird nerds. The surveys you can open. It's open for registration still to get on the winter surveys. What do you want to tell us about going down and surveying OBPs?
Well, firstly, if you can do it, I'm pretty jealous.
Yeah,
So,
me too.
so I think, OBPs are, one of those iconic species, being the one of the most threatened with extinction in Australia. And there has been, huge efforts that are ongoing to save this species. So there is a way, if you are in Tasmania or along the southern end of Australia in through Victoria and South Australia, and you fancy yourself a bit of a birder, the winter surveys are coming up, and so that's an opportunity for you to go and help out at sort of set sites, or really just keep an eye out along the coastline for any orange-bellied parrots that might be having their nice little winter along sort of particularly along salt marshes and things along the coast. So if you go to the website that Grant has shown up, there's some details on when all the different survey dates are happening. And so in Tassie, there's some dates coming up in May, likewise in Victoria and South Australia. And you can, report anything that you see to a whole range of different people depending on where you live. All the details are on that page.
And I might note there's a really cool tool on that page, which is the OBP vocalizations and
Yes,
the blue wing parrot vocalizations, because when people are not really close or they're not familiar with the behaviours of both of the species, it's really easy to confuse them. Um,
absolutely.
but they you can tell them apart with the vocalizations if you're able to spend a bit of time watching them, even if it's from a distance. So, cool tool. So that's the link, thebirdemergency.com/OBP surveys. Again, that's not my web page. I've just made a nice link to go to the BirdLife page there. So, and from there, there's the registrations to get going. I think there's some in April as well as in May from
Yes, you're
memory.
right. There is.
So certainly, if you can get down to Tasmania, or you can get to places like the Werribee treatment plant, or the far west of Victoria, the southeast of South Australia, or even the Crower Jingalong coast in Victoria, right round to Jervis Bay, you're a chance to see some on the migration. Just a
Exactly.
chance.
Just a chance, but what a great chance, hey? Like, that
A,
would be amazing.
a fabulous, fabulous chance. Um, I, while I'm talking OBPs, Holly, I'm trying to find some information, so I'll put this call out to the community. Um, Somebody's been asking me about being involved in a campaign about wind turbines and I think it's Western Victoria that they're mostly concerned about. Um, if anybody has any vision or audio of Jeff Kennett calling the OBP a trumped up Corella when people were objecting to the wind farm proposal in South Gippsland, I would love to know about it. I would also love if someone's got a link or a report, peer reviewed, please, or part of a environmental impact statement or environmental effects statement or something for any of these projects about the actual known instances of collisions, migratory birds in Victoria, particularly. I don't want to hear anecdotal stuff. I want to actually read some information so that I can make some informed comments. Um, I haven't made up my mind on whether I'm sort of agnostic about them, whether I support them, whether I don't support them, because it's a bit of a vexed issue. Um, we need to change the way we're going with our power. Uh, you know, uh, are there areas where we just shouldn't be locating turbines? I don't know. I would like to know. What do you think, Holly, on that?
Oh gosh, again, I think I'm a bit like you. I need to do more research. I'm probably guilty of not knowing enough about it, to be honest. And you're right. I think it's a very complicated issue where, there's that need to balance the site specific um, risk, which takes into account, exactly what is around in that area, and knowing the likelihood of impacts and and then what those impacts would be. So the short story answer is I don't know. I
Mm.
would need to do some of my research as well.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of opinions, but I haven't read much in the way of studies that are pertinent to Australia. Um, there's quite a lot for Europe and for some parts of Asia, but we don't have the same migratory patterns and whatnot. And I'm really worried about those resident birds as well that might get whacked. So yeah, help me out if you've got some info. Let me know. You can send that. It's really easy. News at thebirdemergency.com. I would be happy to receive it. Any tips, any info that you think I should look at, you want to promote something, send it to news at thebirdemergency.com and I'll check it out. Holly, we're moving on.
Where are we now?
Petitions. We're going to go through a couple of petitions. Now, we talked about Act for Birds last week. I just wanted to make sure people understood that there are a couple of different petitions. This petition, that we're looking at now, which is thebirdemergency.com/act4birds, the visuals, stop extinctions. A big crowd holding up placards there, Holly. Was that for Toondah Harbour?
That was for
protest?
Toondah
Yeah,
Harbour.
yeah,
That's
okay.
right. So, for those who don't know, Toondah Harbour is an area uh, southeast of Brizzy.
Yeah,
Um,
it's near Wynnum Manly for those who know Brisbane a little bit, down past Carindale and whatnot, on the mud flats and whatnot, which when I lived in Brisbane, they were stinky mud flats. It was the end of the road and there was not much there except a boat club and a fishing club. Obviously people were living there, but it wasn't developed. But now, Holly, what are they planning?
right on top of Ramsar listed wetland, um, there are plans underway to build a luxury um, development that will basically wipe out that wetland habitat, and that is crucial for a whole range of migratory shorebirds, particularly eastern curlews that use that site for during the non-breeding season, of course, when they're spending their summers in Australia, but also a range of other marine mammals as well. There's also koalas on site. So this has been quite a long-term campaign that BirdLife has been involved in to get this development stopped. Because it is such a critical piece of habitat for such a huge diversity of wildlife. So there is a petition on the Act for Birds website that you can go to for Toondah Harbour, and you can add your voice. There are local action groups that are involved and working with BirdLife Australia on the ground as well in this pretty important battle that has been ongoing.
It's been going a long time.
Mm.
I can't remember if it was episode 3 or 4 of the Bird Emergency podcast, which was, for me, pre-pandemic, but also pre-cancer surgery. So I think we're talking 2017, I think, that I did those. I might have even done the recording a little bit earlier. And Harry Sadler and Amanda Lillyman, in 2 different episodes, we were talking about Toondah Harbour back then. So the good thing is that the pandemic has slowed down the plans for the development, so it's given more time to organise. So please, if you care about migratory shorebirds, if you've donated to Millie Formby's Wing Threads campaign, you should also be signing a petition to protect one of our iconic and rarest of our shorebirds, the far eastern curlew, which of course migrates to breed in Korea and Russia and other parts of the Arctic Circle. A long journey. I think 24,000 k's or something. Amazing, absolutely amazing.
Yeah, it's these are extraordinary birds that are really reliant on this habitat. It's it's a real travesty if something like this was allowed to go ahead, given just how significant internationally this site is for wildlife.
And of course, the entire range of petitions and projects there, actforbirds.org. And we're about to jump into another one of those, Holly, which we always talk about, but we're never going to let this go until we win. There we are. Lovely, powerful owl photo from the Birds in Backyards website there, Holly.
Yeah.
And the poster there that you can
That's right.
you can download if you go to the Act for Owls, so the birdemergency.com/Act for Owls, you'll be able to get the poster there, which is on the right, so you can proudly display that your garden and you are safe zones for all raptors, not only the owls, but particularly our urban owls. And we've got the link there, birdemergency.com/poison petition. Tell us about the poison petition again, Holly.
Goodness, I feel like I've talked about this one a lot, but that's okay because it's one that I'm really passionate about. So the work that we're doing on these rat poisons, it has been brought about because the evidence is emerging that the most common rat poisons or mouse poisons that we buy at the supermarkets have a significant impact on our wildlife. From our littlest boobook owls, now we've shown it's been shown in powerful owls as well. It's in native marsupials. These poisons, particularly these second generation poisons, can impact this, a huge ecosystem. They don't break down very quickly. They so therefore the rat or the mouse gets the lethal dose of poison before it dies, which can take up to a week, sometimes more. It's still moving around in your backyard, wandering down the road, getting into the chook shed. And so therefore is basically a little walking time bomb that can be taken and eaten by wildlife or by your own pets as well. So Birdlife Australia has been working in the last couple of years to campaign to have particularly the second generation poisons, the ones that are more common, removed from supermarket shelves. So still available to use by licensed pest controllers under certain conditions, but saying that these products are too dangerous to be available for public sale. They can be used incorrectly. They still have this huge capacity to impact on wildlife. So the Act for Birds website has a range of petitions that you can sign. It has that poster if you want to let everybody know what your stance is. But there are a whole range of other resources that we've built into that site now. So you can get information on the types of ways you can tackle rats and mice, because we still need to, of course, manage those. We don't want them in our houses and around our properties. So the things that you can use, the chemicals to avoid. We've also got some great brochures that have just gone up on the website as well that you can get a hold of as well, with some tips and tricks. And if you are, incredibly passionate, you can join our little network of action groups who are already out doing amazing things. Some of them have been out in the community for a long time campaigning on this issue, and some of them are just starting up to work with their local community and really letting everybody know just what a threat these poisons are, and to make sure we're really trying to get them out of the food chain as much as we possibly can.
One thing, Holly, that is on that website, one of the resources, which is really, really great, is the list of what is safe and what is not safe to go when you go shopping. So, again, do follow that link, the Act for Hours, the birdemergency.com / Act for Hours, and you can find a link on that page that'll take you straight to the the list of what you should be buying and what you should definitely not be buying. And then if you know if you've got something on the shelf which is something you shouldn't be using, make the effort, contact your local council and get rid of it. Get rid of it safely so that nobody accidentally, when Uncle Mike comes over to help you out to do some odd jobs around the place, that he doesn't spread the wrong one around. Yeah. And Holly, I can you see there that I put the 24,330 signatures on the
Yes.
petition. That was this morning's number. We're going to need more than that to get the government to do anything. So just do please, if you are
Yeah.
concerned, do go and sign that petition.
That's right. So this is all about sort of adding your voice and showing that you're concerned. And so we can demonstrate to, the regulatory body, which is the APVMA, Australian Pesticides and Veterinary Medicine Association. They're at the moment undergoing a massive review into what we call these anticoagulant rodenticides or rat baits. They're undergoing a review at the moment and considering what should happen with them. So that's a really important opportunity for us to make this difference at a national level. Alongside our work to the APVMA, we're also targeting Bunnings as the market shareholder in these products and calling on them to get ahead of the curve and actually voluntarily withdraw those products from public sale. So you can sign a petition there, which again adds your voice and helps us show that there are a large number of Australians that are very concerned about this issue. And if you want to take it a step further, we can also get you to call your local Bunnings and have a very nice, very polite word with their store managers. Again, feeding in and letting them know that this is an issue that you are concerned about.
Holly, I know I've asked you this before. I think privately, but how aware do you think the Bunnings staff and the Bunnings management are about this issue now?
Hopefully, a lot more aware now that we've been sort of actively campaigning. We have had a meeting with Bunnings corporate with head office, and we're having another catch up with them soon. And the feedback that we're getting from our people who have been calling their local Bunnings have ranged from them. The store managers not being aware to an issue that there is an issue to some of the store managers being very annoyed that they've had multiple calls from people about the issue, which is good because we want them to know that people are concerned about it. And we also know that, Bunnings have done a few things to change how these items are displayed. So they will mark that it is a first generation or a second generation poison. The first generation being a little bit better in terms of your poisons. They're less likely to cause an impact to wildlife that might consume a poisoned rat or mouse, and the second gen poisons being much more dangerous. But unless people know what that difference is, it's very hard to actually make a change. But these products are still very, very prominently displayed in Bunnings shops. I had somebody contacting me the other day saying that they had a whole heap of these second gen products right at the front, basically showcasing these products to getting people to buy them. There's also training that's gone on with Bunnings staff, but again, I don't know exactly what that involves to know how effective it would be. They're a shop; they want to sell product, and so we want to make sure that the staff on the ground know the dangers with these products, and that the corporate office are aware that people people want to change. They don't want these products on the shelves anymore. We need to be pushing the alternatives that are effective, but far less dangerous for other wildlife.
It's given me an idea for a future live stream, Holly. Maybe I'll get some people in the studio like now, and we'll all dial our local Bunnings
Ooh.
live on using Skype or something. Call in, go through the script, and see what the Bunnings people say. And
Cool.
I think that would be fun. Now, before we move on, Holly, could you read out those links for us again?
Sure. So you go to thebirdemergency.com/act for owls, and that's where you will get all the information about how you can better look after your birds of prey by avoiding certain products or choosing some alternatives for controlling rats and mice around your garden. And then the birdemergency.com/poison petition to join your voice, to join with us at BirdLife and let Bunnings and the APVMA know that you are passionate about this issue and you are concerned for your local wildlife.
And you can do something like that while you're binge watching your favourite TV series. It's very, very easy to do. Very, very easy to do. All right, I think we'll stick with petitions for a minute, Holly.
Okay.
Now, even though the the count is over
Mm-hmm.
for the great glossies, the glossy red. No, it's just the glossy black-tailed cockatoo. When you're as old as me, the black cockatoos have been through so many name changes, and it's very, very hard to stop calling them the things that you called them when you were a child, when you were bird watching like a maniac as a kid and wanting to mark everything off. And now, oh, what's it called now? Is it another tick? But look, the glossies have bounced back, we think, a bit on Kangaroo Island. So that seems to be a little bit of good news. Now, please don't take that as thinking it's all great. It's just far less dire than we thought it was going to be. I think that's really
Yeah.
the main thing. Now, I should tell people, if you haven't listened, I did a fantastic interview with Daniela Texera, who did her PhD work on the glossies on Kangaroo Island and the bioacoustic surveying method that she used. So, look, I'll tweet out that later on today with the exact link to get to it, but it's easy to find on thebirdemergency.com. Oh, Holly, do you want to have a bit to say about the different populations for the glossy cockatoo and glossy black glossy black cockatoo? See, there's so many I've got all tongue tied. The glossy black cockatoo. There we are.
Yep.
We've got the Kangaroo Island population. Who else are we? Oh, there we go. And who else are we worried about?
Oh, look, throughout the range, being that they've got that population on Kangaroo Island, and then they've got the population along the east coast of Australia from sort of mid Queensland down through to Victoria. A huge proportion of that burnt in the 2019-2020 fires, and so we know that particularly that sort of southeastern Australian population suffered a lot of habitat loss, and there was a population decline, of course, that would go along with something like that. And so there is the Great Glossy Count coming up for the first time on the 26th of March, so this weekend.
So, of course, it's too late to register,
It is.
but it's not too late to be interested.
That's right. So you can go to that website, thebirdemergency.com/glossy, to find out a little bit about the Great Glossy Count. We've got a few cocky counts at BirdLife. So this is all aiming to get an idea of a snapshot of the population that has particularly through those fire-affected regions, to see where the population is at the moment, where the important roost sites and things are, and it's following the same methodology that is done for the Great Cocky Count, which is the Southwest WA cockatoo work, which is primarily focused on carnabies,
And
but also looks at red tails and things as well.
and because we've got another few weeks before all the registrations and whatnot need to happen for those, I didn't do the slide for that. I thought we might be doing cocky overkill, but in the next, maybe in our next show or the one after, we'll be talking a bit more about that, and maybe, hopefully, we'll have somebody from that neck of the woods to tell us a bit more about how the counts happen, similar to having our chat with Sky last week. Great. About the red-tailed black cocky count that is happening in southwest Victoria and southeast South Australia. It's cockies, cockies, cockies everywhere you look. Now, before we move off cockies, let's. I want to talk about what's happening with some glossy cockatoos in southeast Queensland. Now, Holly, have you heard of the Save Sunrise Glossies campaign?
Yes, I have.
You have. Now, you didn't seem to know who the person, the driving force behind it was when I mentioned it.
I didn't know the name. As soon as you mentioned it, it rang lots of bells with me.
Now, this is the Instagram site for Save, the Instagram page for Save Sunrise Glossies. Now, let me see if we can go back. I'll put the sound on. No, it's not going to work. Come on, Glossy. Go back here. And we'll go back here. There we go. It looks like I hope it'll run again. Here we go. I'll run it again. I don't want to see that. I want to see Spencer again. Come on. No, it's not going to work. Save Sunrise Glossies. Here we are. There we are. There he is. Can you see him now?
There he is.
There he
Amazing.
is. So they had yesterday an event. What's happening is that there is a patch of bush that glossies are using, and there is a local church, the Uniting Church, is redeveloping that site, and there has been an offset. Let me go back to the start of this again so you can sort of see it. So that's the habitat that the glossies use, and it's already being smashed. Now, you can see the difference in this video. Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. Of course, no trees, no me. Good on you, Spencer. There's the offset site. Now, Holly, could you notice something that was a bit crook about the offset site?
Yeah. Glossies aren't going to use that at all.
And this is why I often think that the whole concept of offsets needs so much work. Mm-hmm. Usually, you are offsetting really shit habitat, for want of a better term, a more exact term. I'm sure the ecologists amongst us can school me in the terminology I should be using. But when I see that video that Spencer has posted to his Instagram, it's shit compared to paradise. And that's the case so often in offsetting, and it's why I get grumpy.
Yeah, look, you're absolutely right, and I think, I'm ecology trained. Pretty accurate definition, really. I'd use that too. And it's not like for like. You're destroying prime habitat for glossy black cockatoos, and the offset is it's simply not it's simply nowhere near the type of habitat that these birds would be wanting to use. It likely doesn't have the feed trees. It certainly doesn't have the same vegetation cover. Um, there is very, very little similarities between those sites, and so that's when, particularly when you're dealing with something like a glossy black cockatoo, those offsets are simply destined to fail. That these birds, glossies are notoriously fussy. They have very, very few feed trees that they like to use, and so once those particular trees are gone, then that entire food source is wiped out. They're not a sulfur crested cockatoo. They're not just going to move on to the next little patch, or the next piece of lawn, or the next random eucalypt that just happens to fit the bill. These guys, are going for a couple of species of casuarinas for the most part, and so once you take out like that amazing habitat there, you're dooming a population effectively.
Dead set, dead set. Now, I would like to implore you, encourage you all to get behind Spencer and his mum, who is helping him with a lot of the social media stuff. Spencer's a keen photographer, a budding activist birder, I reckon. So you can find Save Sunrise Glossies. There's a petition through their group, and that's at instagram.com at Save Sunrise Glossies. So please do look it up. I'm following them, so if you go to the Bird Emergency Instagram page, you will find it. It's pretty easy to find the Bird Emergency Instagram page, and bear with me, I haven't really done a whole lot. That's sort of one of the next projects. But yeah, there we go, Holly. Fantastic, fantastic to see a young activist amongst us. I think it's great. It's fantastic.
Oh, absolutely. It's while it's an incredibly awful situation, it's amazing to watch it being all of this work there being spearheaded by an 11-year-old. Like that passion and concern is amazing to see. It
Yep.
really is.
And hats off to his mum.
Absolutely.
For being so supportive of all the work, and also all the people like Daniela, who I mentioned before. She's done some speaking for the group and helped encouraging with the fundraising. And look, great, keep it up, and I hope you win. There's two Icon Southeast Queensland projects or actions that people should be supporting, and that's the Toondah Harbour. So Act for Birds, of course, we've been over that link before, and Save Sunrise Glossies. Get into it. Now, Holly, we're going to move on to what's coming up next. This is a good one.
Yeah, look at that. That's me.
That's you.
That's me.
Bird-friendly gardening. Holly's going to be speaking. It's tomorrow night.
Wednesday night.
Oh, beg your pardon. It's Wednesday night, so you do have an extra day. You need to get a ticket. It's an online event, so it's through Eventbrite. But again, I've made an easy link there, thebirdemergency.com/hollybirdgarden. That will take you to this lovely. It's got to be a great event because you've got a male golden whistler.
Look at that.
As your mascot for the event.
Exactly.
Now, you've partnered up with Lane Cove City Council, Holly. Is this sort of their event and they reached out to you, or did you reach out to them to do a presentation?
Look, it's a bit of both. So I've worked with Lane Cove City Council, for quite a few years on different talks and projects. So I think it was a bit of they approached me and said, "Oh, we want to do some more things this year. What do you want to do?" And so we're doing this session on Wednesday night. So it'll be online. And I'm just going to be basically talking about all the stuff that I love talking about, which is birds and how you can get them in your garden. While it's, we'll be Sydney focused in terms of maybe some of the plant recommendations that I put forward, the tips and techniques and bird trends that I'll be talking about will be from all over. It's certainly not going to be totally restricted to just Lane Cove Council residents or even Sydney residents. You can join from anywhere, and I think you may learn something.
I'm sure everybody will learn something. So, Holly, that link again. How do people go and get tickets? It is free.
It is free. It is free, but being online, there's limits to capacity and things. So encourage you, if you want to come along and get the link, to go to thebirdemergency.com/Holly Bird Garden, and you will be able to go to the Eventbrite site and get your little free ticket and join me. I will be in the same space, most probably, talking to you on Wednesday night.
Now, Holly, what I messaged you earlier on before we were setting up for today, and I said, "Oh, I hope you're going to be impressed with our upgrade in production. What do you think of all this new whiz bangery that we've got?"
I'm impressed. I like it. I think the website links have been really useful because there is so much going on, and there's so many different places to get all the information that I think keeping it nice and simple is great. Birdlife's got a lot going on at the moment, and so even from within Birdlife, trying to keep a track of everything is a challenge. So hopefully there has been in the last 2 episodes something that listeners have found that they would like to get involved in. I think we've covered a pretty good range.
I think we
from
have.
It's really simple, signing a petition, through to going and hunting for one of the rarest birds in Australia with OBPs. I think there's something for everybody to take part in.
So, at the risk of making this all about me, Holly, now that we've talked about your talk, I'm actually developing, and will probably launch next month, streams particularly about the plants you can select in the different cities and the different environments to serve different purposes in your garden and garden planning. So I haven't got all the guests lined up, but I'm a horticulturist, and I know a lot about native plants. I love them, and I love designing bird-friendly and wildlife-friendly gardens. But nobody needs to hear me banging on all the time, week after week, about the same things. So I've reached out to a lot of people, both growers, landscape architects, contractors who are building public spaces, urban space managers, farm groups, and a whole lot of people to talk about the kinds of plants that are reliable, rather than just what, people recommend stuff, but there's not much point recommending something that no one can get at the moment. So I'm using my knowledge, chasing up the major suppliers, seeing which stuff is coming into market, what's going to be pushed in the garden centres. So look out for that. And the other thing which I'm building, because the last priority for me all the time is always fixing up my bloody website, but there's going to be a links page where all the stuff that we talk about, I'll just be linking in subject areas like black cockies, and we'll put all the links to all the black cocky counts, all the other counts, everything, whether they be BirdLife ones or whether they are other groups. But if we've mentioned it, it's going to be there. And Holly, we know that it can be difficult to find your way around the BirdLife site at the moment, and it's undergoing a renovation, so it's but these things take time. So in the meantime, hopefully I can make it a little bit easier, because hey, the best thing about losing all your work in a pandemic means that, hey, I'm full time on the bird emergency now. So there we go. All right, now Holly, we only got a few more things to go, but it is now going to be all about me before we recap. I'd like to let people know the podcasts that are coming up, the podcast episodes that are coming up. These have already all been recorded. So they're all ready to go. Here's the first lot. Can you give my voice a rest for a minute, Holly?
Sure. Look, I'm excited.
The next one is
the lovely Millie Formby talking about her, big adventure that she's about to undertake, the Wing Threads project, and her travelling around Australia as a migratory shorebird. That's really exciting.
And that will drop tomorrow, the Wing Threads Millie Formby episode. Millie is amazing. She I don't really know what more to say other than she's amazing. And she's a very forthright and thoughtful individual, extremely talented, and thinks outside the box. I love talking to Millie, and I can't wait to follow her around the country. It's going to be great.
She's incredibly exciting. You're right. She can do everything, and yeah, I'm looking forward to listening. She's amazing.
And she's one of your Birdlife Australia crew as well.
She is. She is. I'm very proud to have her as a colleague. She's an extraordinary woman.
Yeah. Now, on this list, there's an awful lot of Australia on this list, but trust me, there is some other stuff coming up. So who now, these are not in any particular order, I might say. But who have I got next there?
So we've got Rowan Clark coming up next. So he's going to be talking about using drones in conservation research, particularly around woodland birds, which will be wonderful.
Now let me just if you don't know who Rowan Clark is and you have this book, you know who Rowan Clark is. All right, Rowan Clark is one of the co-authors, but Rowan has. I mentioned to him in our chat, I think I said it while we were recording, I certainly did say it to him, that I've known the name Rowan Clark since I was in my 20s, I reckon. So Rowan was publishing articles and whatnot in like Field Observer stuff and all that well before he was a respected academic. And by jingos, there's not much he has not done. Fantastic chat with Rowan. We talked a lot about policy, designing research, undertaking it, and his career generally, and seabirds, and just Macquarie, just so much stuff. Christmas Island, I think, from memory, yeah, so much. And then, now, do you know Bronwyn?
I don't think I've met her personally, but I think we've exchanged emails and things. And we should do, because we both work on Powerful Owls.
That's right. So Bronwyn's working in, this Bronwyn Isaac, working in Melbourne with the Monash shooting? Yeah.
Monash
shooting,
yes.
I think, yeah, at Monash. And they've got a different set of surveys going on for Powerful Owls. Mm-hmm. And we talked about her career and her research and how it all happens again. So that was great. And then I feel like I need to do a drum roll for the next one.
Wow.
Who's up there?
This is amazing. Well done, Grant. So Hugh Possingham, Queensland Chief Scientist, BirdLife Australia board member as well. Is going
delightful man, I might say.
Amazing man. Really, really wonderful human.
Yes.
I'm very excited to hear him talking about his work.
Co-inventor of Bird a Minute. So, along with another one of your colleagues, Holly, Jeremy Ringmer. Mm-hmm. So we had a really good chat. As is always my want. We talked a lot about policy, but we talked about methodology, funding. Talked about what Hugh loves to do, his local birding patch, his journey from being a mathematician, his working in government and in non-government fundraising, awareness raising, his academic work at University of Queensland. Amazing man. He spent a lot of time chatting with me, and hopefully people are going to enjoy that one. The next one, turtle doves in the UK. I saw Charlotte O'Neill on Twitter just sort of mentioning something about turtle doves, and I'd known about Project Turtle Dove in the UK and in Europe. Now, we didn't really talk about Project Turtle Dove. Charlotte's a student in Cornwall who is really studying photography, but the course is amazing. You basically do some academic conservation stuff while you are learning to be a content producer and a storyteller. And Charlotte is a great birder, a budding academic, no doubt about it, and tells me a lot, learned me a lot about the history of turtle doves in the UK and why they are, in fact, endangered. It's an iconic species. We all know the 12 Days of Christmas and two turtle doves, but they're pretty hard to see. So there we go. You have to read the next one out, Holly.
I do? Okay. So we're going to hear from Ursula Ellenberg,
Ursula Ellenberg, who lives in the south of the south coast of New Zealand.
Oh, beautiful.
Down in Kakapo country, or Kakapo country.
But talking about Fiordland crested penguins?
Yes.
Ooh, very nice.
The Tawaki, as it's known. And we did also talk about all the other penguins in New Zealand and whether some of the New Zealand penguins are also Australian penguins or whether they're distinct on their own. So yeah, that was a really fun chat. And again, it's pretty Aussie, like trans-Tasman centric, but hey, that's okay. More Australia. We're
back.
Now you know Neil, of course. I'm guessing.
Yes. So the Ghostberg.
There's another typo. Look at that.
There he is. Look at that.
That will teach me to do things at 5 o'clock in the morning, Holly. It's Neil Hamilton, not Neil Hamilton.
Night parrots.
Yes.
Very, very exciting.
Although to be fair, I described the episode as the Australia's Ghost Bird, but we really talked about Neil's amazing career up to date, and I'll be speaking with Neil more. Some people who have had amazing careers all over the world in all sorts of areas, just an hour and a half isn't enough. I recently spoke with Bennett Hennessy, who is in charge of the Brazil programs for the American Bird Conservancy, and we talked about the Ariape mannequin, which survives in this tiny little part, an escarpment in Brazil on the edge of a habitat, but they did some successful crowdfunding and partnering with a couple of other organisations to actually buy the land to preserve the population, and the population distribution is really interesting. We've got some great visuals that go with it, so you can look at it on YouTube to learn all of it. That was fun. Bennett is a terrific person, a Canadian who works for the American Bird Conservancy, lives in Bolivia, but is in charge of the Brazil program for the American Bird Conservancy. A wealth of knowledge. Next, coming up next, another one of your brethren, I think, is the fair enough terminology there?
Yeah, probably. So where are we going? 40 spotted
40 spots.
Yep. Down Tassie next with Dr. Sally Bryant. Is this talking about some of the work on?
Tasmanian Nature Conservancy or
Yes,
Land
wonderful.
Conservancy. I've got it wrong, just speaking offhand, but there is a success in that part of Tasmania where private conservation foundations have been really, really successful with preserving habitat, and it looks like they've stemmed the decline, which is about the best you can do, I think, until there is new habitat to move into. So that was a really great chat. Sally's had an amazing career, worked in government, worked in private conservation, and worked as a researcher, been a practical conservationist as well as a researcher and a manager and an allocator of resources. So a really interesting perspective. I learned a lot, and hopefully everyone else will too if they listen. And there, my other typo. Let's highlight that. I can't believe it. I'm really sorry, Kylie. I did that. I spoke with Kylie about the artificial hollows that she's been involved with Melbourne Uni and RMIT and some architects with 3D printing
Yeah, really
and
innovative stuff. Amazing.
yeah, and modelling the hollows to fit a location. So yeah, really interesting chat. Kylie's great, and as I said, she'll be joining me a bit more regularly when we sort the dates and times out. And then the last one, it's one I recorded a long time ago, but I don't have the visuals yet to put it out. But Yoav Perlman, who is with BirdLife International, he's based in Israel, but we talked about the migratory birds that get funneled between Africa and Europe that come through a real bottleneck where Israel and the surrounding countries are. And of course, we know there's all sorts of issues with that part of the world, and it's a challenge for the birds. So there.
Wow, amazing.
Now I've got a little note down there about subscribe. Nearly all of these conversations are available. The live streams unedited are up if you want to go and check them out, and they're on the birdemergency.com/YouTube. Now I've got a bit of an effort to try and get to 500 subscribers. We're a long way short of that, but once you do, you then have some other functionality like a community page and whatnot, which means it's easy to tell people what's coming up and what things are about. So I need to get to 500 subscribers for that, and that's what this is all about. So there we go. God, I love hearing your croaky voice, Holly. Can you read that one out again?
So that's the birdemergency.com/YouTube. So I will just go through and like and subscribe myself.
Fantastic. It's a work in progress. Over the next week or two, I'll pretty it up, and I've got so many things half edited, new videos and whatnot to go up. So for people to know, the conversations I have are usually pretty long because there's a lot of ground to cover, and that's by design. Apart from my waffling, but also I don't want to do what the news does, 3 minutes talking about something, or what Landline or whatever do with a 15-minute segment where you don't get right into the bones. If I only get one opportunity to speak to people who are absolute experts, I want to get absolutely everything out of it I possibly can, with the odd rant thrown in. But what I do with the YouTube is we have the live stream. I leave them up there, so if you want to see how the sausage is made, you can do that. But then I do chunk them up into smaller clips. So I try and keep them under 10 minutes so that they're bearable to listen to or watch at the outset. So, Holly, I think we're about done. let me just go back to the website that we really want everyone to go and check out now to register for the upcoming surveys.
That's right. So the birdemergency.com/birds in backyards, that will take you through to the Birds in Backyards website and all the instructions on how to do your lovely little autumn bird survey in your garden.
Now, Holly, I'm going to focus in on you, and you can tell everyone the Twitter and Instagrams that they should be getting hold of for you.
Sure. So to make it nice and confusing, we have two different handles. So for Instagram, you go to @birdsinbackyards, and we post very regularly, lots of just general great bird photos, but also lots of information on what to do to create great spaces and upcoming activities that we've got going on in the urban bird team at Birdlife. We are very lucky to have an amazing array of photographers who let us use their images. And we also have some great video as well that we can access. So we're very, very lucky. And then for Twitter, it's @UrbanBirdsOz. So you can follow, again, us there. We share very similar content, slightly differently when you're talking across the two social media platforms, but you can keep up to date with everything that we've got going on with @BirdsInBackyards on Instagram and @UrbanBirdsOz on Twitter.
And if you would like to follow me on Twitter, @BirdEmergency, and if you'd like to check out my Instagram, which again is a work in progress, but I'm going to put a bit more instructional stuff, and I try and, with everything, I try and share the things I see that I think may not be being amplified. So you'll see a lot of retweets and reposts. On Instagram, it's @TheBirdEmergency. So I'm Grant Williams. That is Dr. Holly Parsons. And this has been the Monday Megaphone with the Bird Emergency. And of course, keep checking thebirdemergency.com. It's now receiving a bit of love. So you might be slightly more impressed than you will have been if you've ever visited the site before. Thanks so much for joining us. We did get some nice viewers today, Holly, so
Great.
That was good. But
Wonderful.
I didn't see any action from Twitter, so I'm wondering whether that actually worked. So we'll look into that for next week.
Okay.
Actually, Holly, this was our odd week.
Mm-hmm.
We shouldn't have been talking this week, but we couldn't finish last week. But are you available next week? Because I've already booked a beautiful person to join us, if you can.
Oh, let me double check the calendar. I think I'm clear, but okay. I will let you know very soon.
Well, I'll tease everyone.
Who is it?
Whether Holly's here or not, Fiona Backhouse is coming back to talk about her work with the Albert's lyrebird in southeast Queensland.
Amazing.
And she's been doing a lot of bioacoustic monitoring as well. So we're getting into that. Okay. Thanks everyone for watching. I need to do a bit of housekeeping with Holly, so we're off. See ya.
Thanks all. Bye.